Dum bum bum dum bum bum dum bum bum. Dum bum bum dum bum bum dum bum bum. There's a little ditty they're singing in the city, and I can't remember the rest of the words. Welcome, it's Friday with Friends, and today's guest is Tony Cranston.
Oh, I'm happy to see you again. I'm happy to see you again, Simon.
I'm happy to see you too, Tony. So Tony isn't a storyteller from England. He originally hails from East Yorkshire. Is that right?
Northeast England. Close.
Northeast England. Well, you're a Geordie, right?
Why, I man.
Aye, why, aye. Come from up north, don't we, eh?
That, aren't you? Straight away, hard work translating what why I means.
I know what
about that too.
Oh, you do? Why don't you tell us that story then? The why? What is why I?
Who was the president? The peanut farmer. Which one was that?
Oh, that was that's Jimmy Carter, right?
Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter came to Newcastle and Washington, of course, and when he flew into the airport, his motorcade came down, and he saw all of these crowds of people going to a football match shouting, "Way I man, where are the lads?" All of this, they were shouting. So he had no idea what they were saying, of course, but when he made his speech, the first thing he said was, "Where the lads, way I man." And from that moment on, he became the best president ever.
Oh, I bet.
He had no idea what he was saying, but it went down really well, and everybody applauded and cheered for ages and ages before he could get his speech started.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's
black, white, stripy football shirt, and he'd be fine.
Yeah, right. So why that just means hello, how are you, right?
Yes, hello, how are you? Yes, man, yeah, all of that. It's a sort of one of those general words, like a Jewish sort of and Chinese, yeah. It's one of those words that covers everything.
That's great. I love those kinds of words. They're brilliant. So
you have to learn how to say that. You know, all you got to just say "way I man."
Way man, aye. So my yeah, there you go. And my dad, I have to admit this. My dad was Lancastrian. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. He's still from up north. He's still proper people.
Yeah, right. And actually, my sister, she's just outside of sunny Doncaster, or Sunny Donny, as she calls it. She has an office in Boltree. She's a chiropractor. She should be paying me for this plug. She's a really good chiropractor. But you don't live up north anymore. You're down south now, right?
Yeah, I'm just outside London now. Been here for about 21 years now. 21 years. I'm still trying to learn the lingo. But in that 21 years, I'm writing a foreword to a children's book, and I had to work out how many places I've actually lived in and lived and worked in together. Outside the UK, I've lived in 72 towns and cities.
Wow. That's outside the UK. How many of you lived inside the UK?
I haven't tried to work that out yet, but yes.
Is that even more then?
It won't be more, because I tend to go away a lot and then come back. And
right.
When in the UK, I'll stay in places long enough to get to know the place and then start to want to write about it. Or better still, what I usually do is get a group of local primary school children together and encourage them to, and they write the book. It's sort of year in the life of their village. I've done 3 of them so far.
Oh, right.
It's brilliant. I can show you one I did years ago, which I quite like. This one here, which is Lancaster, and if I could, this is in the northeast of England, a Roman town. But there's the picture of the children.
Oh, nice.
I still had some hair, folks.
Is that with the white shirt on?
The oldest was 10. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. We all looked different back in those days. That's so neat.
They took all the photographs of the village and everything. They did the whole thing. It's still there now as a history book. And one of the children in this book is now the head teacher of this local school there. So she
Oh
did
wow,
well.
that's
And I let
yeah, I
you
bet.
read it. If you're 8 years old or 7 years old or something, and you've written a book, wow, what can you do when you're 10? What can you
I
do by
know,
10?
right?
Strip you and me easily. So that's the hope anyway. It's the hope.
That's funny. That's funny. Ah, all right. So you've one of those countries that you've been out of or visited is America, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
You've been over here a few times. Yeah.
Mm.
So who did
Yeah,
you
I
get
love.
to meet when you came over here? And what
Oh,
festivals did you get to go to?
I went to the Waterfire Festival in Providence, Rhode Island, a long time ago with Mark Binder and Judith Black.
Uh-huh.
And performing with those two, I had no idea, what they were both going to be like. Mark is a brilliant orator, but Judith has got gazillions of fans who just crowd in just for the sake of for Judith, and then they disappear when she's not on again.
Yeah, Judith is amazing. She's a spitfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got 2 people watching right now, which is great. If you want to tell us who you are and where you're from, that would be great. I'd love to see that. And if you have any questions for Tony or for myself, then just drop them in the chat. I'll see them, we'll see them, and we can put them up online. That's always fun. So today's guest, oh, sorry.
Since then, I've stayed with Sebastian Lockwood and Nanette. Papa Joe Goddard, who's another brilliant storyteller. Lynn Cullen, Bruce Marcus. Performed in Boston and in Cambridge and all of those kinds of places too. But it's really good fun, and you learn so much from the likes of Sebastian and Papa Joe and Mark.
And Judith.
Oh, and Judith, she's a good friend. She helped us in every way possible.
Yeah, she's
the right shops to go shopping in.
I wouldn't have pegged her for much of a shopper, but I guess she must be, huh?
We were going shopping, so she took us to the places and said, "Hey, this is the places where you need to go." And we found one which was interesting. Over here, we call it TK Maxx, and over in America, they call it
TJ. Yeah, TJ Maxx. And we also have Marshalls, and I think that's the same. I think Marshalls and TJ Maxx are actually the same thing, but I could be wrong there. I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again, that's for sure. So Judith Black, she's amazing, and she's a big environmentalist as well, which I think is,
she is.
She's huge on pushing the environmental cause, which is brilliant because
she's done a lot of these TED Talks and things they got on
right, and she's been right. And she's done it for a long time too, which is, way before a lot of other people started doing the environmental issues.
Yeah.
So I read somewhere that you ran away from home at the age of 4 in the direction of China.
Oh. Well.
What caused that, and why China?
I don't know why China, but you should have my mom telling you this story. She tells it to. Did you meet my mom at some point to tell you this story?
All right. Next time I'm over.
When I was about 4 years old, I had an argument with my mom, and I packed a brown carrier bag with a blanket to make it look full, put a shirt on the top, and I said, "Right, I'm running away to China." I was 4 years old, and I got as far away as the other side of the street and down the road.
Woo!
Which is 4-year-old could ever go on his own. And I'd be there, I don't know, maybe an hour or something. And I eventually had to ask a stranger to go and say, "Will you go and tell my mummy I haven't gone very far yet and she can still catch me?" She was looking out the window all the time. But I was 4 years old, and I wanted to run away to China, and I eventually got there when I was 37.
Oh, so that was a long wait. That was a long wait. So what took you over to China when you were in your 30s?
I was working with children in a children's art group. We were teaching them all kinds of things, and we ran a magazine called Off the Wall at the time. And that was a good magazine, about 16,000 copies across the country. And the was going to the smaller children to help them teach. Help them learn how to paint, how to sing, how to dance, how to just do all kinds of things, including writing and telling stories. But at that time, I was borrowing all the ideas from a magazine in China called China Today. and the Children's Palace Arts Center in Beijing. Now, eventually in 1990, I had a story published, the first story I ever wrote, called A Dragon's Wish, which is really terrible, but it's better now that I've changed it all around. But it was really terrible at the time. I think about it. Yeah, what a terrible story. You know, really mushy. But they published it worldwide in 7 world languages, and then invited me over to be the first Westerner to ever to visit and observe the Children's Palace in Beijing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. You know,
that's an honor.
You know the Chairman Mao and the Forbidden City?
Yep.
There was another half not open to the public, another half across the main road. When you go out the back door, across the main road, there's a huge park. There was a huge park, and another part of the Forbidden City, which was given over to the children and Madame Sun Yat-sen in 1949 to set up the Beijing's Children's Palace.
Oh, wow.
Beijing's Children's Palace teaches all kinds of arts and dance and music and singing and performance and TV acting and storytelling, drama, everything. Ballet, the whole business, including martial arts, as well as reading, writing and arithmetic, all of those things. You could go there from about 3.5 years old to 19, and you could have the same people in your class. And in particular, the class I went to, which was the English class, of course, Miss Year's class, and I was introduced to 8-year-olds who were the star of the class, and to 19-year-olds with them. I don't know if you can see them there. There's me again.
I'm going to make this bigger. Hang on a second. I'm going to make you full screen.
Ah, there we are. Next to me there was a little girl called Sujie. She was 8 years old going on 9, and up at the end, this end, that's Chao Pang, who was 19. They were the best friends, and they are still they were best friends, and they were in the same class. And the beauty of this place is you might want to go in to be a dancer or a singer, like a pop star or something. So you go in and start training as a pop star. But at lunchtime you will be mixing with other children who may be learning to play keyboard or violin or traditional Chinese instrument or ballet or something. And you can get invited to go and see. And if those teachers catch you and say, you know, this child's gifted, they tell the parents straight away, so bring the child here and say, this child's gifted.
Wow.
And they're their best, they get the best training, and when they grow up, they become the next generation of actors, writers, performers, pop stars, movie stars, the whole bit. But they never forget. And when they have their having a break, you know, in between movies, their downtime, so to speak, they go back to the Children's Palace to teach the next generation.
Oh, wow.
Imagine if someone, say, like Madonna or someone who was trained at the Children's Palace and then go back there to teach the kids how to perform. You can imagine the performance level would just go...
Oh, yes.
And their confidence level would just be amazing.
Yeah, because they all went to the same... That's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, I loved it. When I went there, I couldn't believe some of the children were fabulous. Sujie was one in particular. Her parents didn't speak English. Her mum could say sit, hungry, something like that. Not at all. But she spoke fluent English. She was learning Japanese and French. She was learning all the ologies at the same time. She was on the radio learning to be an actress and so on. She was the obvious star.
Wow. Oh, you know, we really should teach. I mean, you know, and when I say we, I mean in England as well. We should really teach more languages in school because
yes, England too.
England too. Right. I mean, I remember when I was doing French lessons.
Speak 6 languages, you know.
Right. Yeah. And on the continent, you know, they all they speak at least 3 languages on the continent. Well, maybe the French. They probably speak maybe 3 at the most: English, American, and French.
Yes. And they only use American and French when they want to speak back to us.
Yes.
You know, you could go with your best. Have you tried it? Have you tried going to Paris or somewhere and speaking in your best French?
Yes, no, I don't. I've been up to. I tried. So when I was learning French at school, everyone was telling me, "Oh, you shouldn't waste your time doing that, because they all speak English." And because I was young, and these were my elders, I decided that okay, then they know better than I do, so I won't learn French. And about 3 years out of high school, I was kind of like, I should have I should have stuck with that. I should have stuck with that. And then I ended up running youth hostels,
Yes, you
and
did. Yes, I remember you saying. By the way, folks, Simon here was on Talking Stories, our radio program, way back in October 2018. That was show 20. It was a Halloween special. It was on for about 15 minutes chatting away. Go and listen to it. And we could do with the numbers boosted up on that one. So go and listen to it. Listen to the story. Listen to the story too. It was a fantastic story. Yes, I remember you telling me you ran youth hostels for a while.
yeah, I did. It was that was one of those jobs that was a lifestyle job, and was absolutely, I'd be working crazy hours a week, like 80 hours a week or something like that, and it didn't affect me at all because it was, it was like my lifestyle at the time, and I was just doing it, and it was fabulous. But then towards the end of the 5 years, I was getting pretty close to being burnt out. Funnily enough.
A long time.
So I just put the link to everybody for Talking Stories Radio because it's a great show. Tony gets a lot of people from all over the world submitting stories to them. He sometimes interviews people, and he also includes poetry, which I think is awesome. And the type of people that send stuff in, it's a real varied bunch, isn't it?
Yes, we try to. One of the pleasures of it is to put an American voice next to a Scottish voice, next to an Indian voice. So I always try to imagine them on a stage coming out and performing, just to get all of that lovely, rich texture of voices and different kinds of stories and different delivery of stories. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and I was talking to Claire Murphy, and who's done a lot of international storytelling. And one of the things that she said was that each country approaches storytelling in a very different manner, which I thought was, like Italy from Germany to France to England to America. It's really interesting. I had no idea. I just thought storytelling was storytelling, but apparently the approach and the acceptance of storytelling is hugely different from country to country.
Yes, they attach importance to it in some countries more than, say, England might. But it's all changing now. England and America is catching up again, and we're doing really well. And people are now looking to England and America for these stories, and the fact that storytelling is re-emerging in this 21st science fiction century of ours. It's necessary. And since say America was the leader of the 21st science fiction century, it's good that a fairy tale can produce an Einstein.
Yes.
Let's go. It's good that storytellers are back, just to do the balance, just to keep that balance, something inside of us here.
Yeah. Well, Tim Jennings, he talks about how his wife Leanne did a lot of dream work, like studying dream work and all that, dream science. And apparently if people stop dreaming, they don't have dreams, then they start becoming insane, basically. They start to lose their sanity. And
wow.
Leanne would say, this is Leanne Ponder and Tim Jennings, but Leanne Ponder would say that as a society, the folk tales are our dreams. And when we stop telling our dreams, when we stop sharing our dreams as a society, the society starts to go insane. And I wonder if, I wonder if there's an element of truth to that, because, the society that we're living in right now is quite wonky at times.
I suspect there is a lot of truth in that, really. It seems to make sense that, yes, we're old enough to know that. We're old enough to know that. You younger ones suspect it already. Well, it's true.
I think they do suspect it already. I think they're already tapping into it. Yeah. There are lots of new voices coming out, which is really, really nice.
Oh, there is. There's a lot of new ones, especially in India at the moment. Prime Minister Modi, who isn't everybody's cup of tea right now, but he has his own radio program. Monkey Bat, I think it is, on All India Radio.
Monkey or Mankey?
Monkey Bat, M-A-N-K-E. I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest. But he has his own radio program on All India Radio, and last September he was telling everybody to go home and learn to be a storyteller and tell stories again. It's good for the country, it's good for the community, it's good for the soul.
No, I totally agree with that. Yeah, and we've seen an uptake. I think. Yeah, and we have seen a huge uptake in Indian storytellers, and they are looking to the. They are.
The younger ones are brilliant. Sabi
yeah,
Singh
they are.
Was another one, and Shania Singh. Wow, Shania has won every award under the sun, including a Mother Teresa award just recently.
Really?
She's 7 years old, and she's got a Teresa Global Award for her contribution to human society, sort of thing. You know, I forgot what it is.
Wow,
that's a brilliant award. I thought, wow, she's in the American Book of Records, the Guinness Book of Records, everything. You know, we were delighted to have her on the show. She's really clever. Really clever.
That's
both of them. A lot of them. They're the vanguard of the new wave. Can I say that? New wave?
Yeah. Why not?
New wave of Indian storytellers. Yeah.
I know. I think it's going to be a tsunami of storytellers coming out of India. I really do, because they're really taking it on. You know, there's that. There are. It seems like weekly or at least monthly shows coming out of India that are put on by Eric Miller, right? Eric Miller's putting on a lot of stuff. He's doing some great work out there.
Oh, that's good. Good to hear. That's good to hear.
Yeah, so look, Rachel Hedman, who's joined us, and if anybody else has joined us, please throw your name down there. Rachel says the year of 2018 has been a surge with Indian storytelling movement, though as everywhere else, storytelling has always existed. Yes, it is, but I think a lot of it, and I think that the movement of Indian storytelling isn't necessarily a new movement, but I think it's the movement from the small communities within which they are to a much broader community, and so they're becoming a lot more visible, if you will.
The language of storytelling is used everywhere now. You hear it in the movies and in the books. You know, when they're describing a movie, they will say it was good storytelling. You know,
yes, I know.
It was good storytelling. So they're using that word now all the time because it gives them a little bit of credence. You know,
it kind of I'd say it bugs me, but it just muddies the water of what we do and what we are, I think.
Yes.
And it's hard to be able to shout out and say, yes, that is storytelling, and this is storytelling.
Yeah, so it is. But it shows you that they're watching. They're seeing what's going on. They know what's going on. So that's good. That's good.
And doing what they do best, which is, when it comes to Hollywood, is stealing it.
Yes.
So I want to take you back to China, because even though you're a Geordie man from up north of England and all the rest of it, you know, we talked a little bit about you trying to run away from home at the age of 4 to run away to China, and you actually got there at the age of 37. But you've created a huge, deep bond with China, with yourself.
I got married in 1939 to a girl from Beijing.
You got married in 1939, or you got married when you were 39?
When I was 39.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I'm a storyteller, so I just sort of elaborated a little bit there. Let's say a tip for all you storytellers: tell them a story you don't know, then they never know if they make a mistake.
That's true. Or you just say that it's your version of the story.
Oh, it's your version of the story.
Yeah, this is my version. Yeah.
Yes.
So do you?
I got married when I was 39, and then I got divorced again about 12 years later or something. Then I got married again to a girl from Hong Kong. So been stuck with China since I was 4 years old.
That's quite incredible. So there must be, I don't know if you.
I'm a historian when I was 9, and I learned to use chopsticks when I was 6.
No, so all right. So something's going on here, mate. So I don't know if you believe in reincarnation, but I wonder if you were like from China in a previous life or something like that.
I wondered that myself. Perhaps I was rich, famous, fat, and very wealthy Chinese, because now I am not famous, I am poor, I am skinny, and I'm still Chinese. So I must have been a bad one. So I've been reincarnated for punishment. So I could probably make a story out of that, really.
I think you should. I think you really should. And talking to stories, do you want to tell us one?
You keep right. Because there's so many stories to tell, my story.
How many do you know? How many stories do you know? Because you've told me this before, and it's quite an incredible number.
Oh, well, I did start off with 3 or 4 Robin Williamson stories and a couple of Geordie stories, the Lambton Worm and things. And it got expanded and expanded and expanded. And I heard a storyteller, a very famous one, God who, a long time ago, said they had over 100 stories in their head. And I thought, I passed that somewhere along the line, and I know I've got a list of over 500 stories that all I need to do is just look at the title, and then I'm off. I can remember the story.
Wow. Do you have a photographic memory?
I use photographs to tell the story.
Really?
Well, I see stories as pictures. A scene here, a scene there, and another scene, and I just tell what happened in each scene. So it's that's how I remember them. It's how I remember most of them. Though I have to admit, if somebody tells me a good story, like I've heard yours, Simon, I remember the Selkie's gift. You know, I remember that.
That's an old Scottish story. Yeah.
Old Scottish story, but I like the way you told it. And because of that, I know it. I know the whole lilt of the story. I don't think about it. I could just tell it, but I could do that. My own stories, I very rarely remember the story that I've written myself.
You know, that's interesting you say that, because I'm the same way. I've written like a bunch of poems, and I've written a bunch of stories, but to get me to tell them is, you know, without them being written down in front of me is a feat that I find very challenging. I have to, you know, if it's written in front of me, I can read it really well, but...
Well, writing a book, as you know, you've written a book at all. What was yours called again? Oaken Bough?
Under the Oaken Bough, yeah. Under the Oaken Bough. Yeah,
I remember. We'll swap some books when we come over there. Swap
all right.
We'll never get rich at this rate, but never mind.
No, we won't.
No.
We won't get rich, but I don't think we're meant to. Well, maybe not. I don't know about that. Sorry, go on.
You know any storytellers?
I know some that make a good living from it. Yeah, Donna Washington is a phenomenal storyteller. She is really busy. I wouldn't say that she's rich, but she definitely makes a living doing it. Odds Bodkin, you know, he bought his own house on storytelling.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'd like to know how he did that. That's brilliant. That's a good story. I want to know.
It is. I think there are a number of storytellers out there that do make a good living doing what they do. And I think Sheila Arnold, I think she's getting to that point where she's making a good living doing it. And I think, having had a long conversation with Michael Parent, I think those that, Bill Harley is another one, although he does a lot of song as well with his stories, and I think that makes a difference when you add musical instruments into the mix. Heather Forrest is another one that's although Heather Forrest, Heather Forrest, she was also a farmer, which I didn't realize until somewhat recently. So I don't know if her storytelling was her main income or farming. I can't imagine farming was a main income, because that's not a money maker either. You don't see too many farmers driving around in Rolls Royces, that's for sure.
No,
anyway, you're going to tell a story.
I know. I sort of tried to waffle it away a bit there. And while I was doing that, I was thinking, what story should I tell? Mm-hmm. I could tell you an English one, I could tell you a Chinese one, I could tell you a Hong Kong one.
All right, so maybe the audience, maybe Rachel and our other listeners could make
the Hong Kong one is a special story. If you want to cry, it's a good story.
Oh, okay, so it's a heartbreaker. All right. And what are the other stories, so that we can give people an idea of what you might be telling, sir?
Okay, the English one. She's cried already?
Rachel said Hong Kong. We have three other people. What? Oh, here we go. Hong Kong. Kevin Cordy says Hong Kong. Hi, Kevin. Good to see you here.
Oh,
Rachel
Kevin
says Hong
Cody,
Kong.
yeah, hiya.
So,
Yep, okay.
and Rachel
Hong
says she's
Kong.
willing to cry. So let's go.
Okay, it's that story then. There was two stories I was looking at in my head. One, well, both are two stories actually. I'll give you the
They're true
prequel to this.
stories.
Yeah, they're true stories.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, not
ladies.
true stories-ish, but true stories. But true stories. The background to this in Hong Kong, in the West we have Halloween one night of the year. In Hong Kong they have Ghost Month, and that's a whole year, a whole month out of the year where all the ghosts can come out of hell and they can eat and they can drink because there's not much of that stuff down there, and they can go and visit friends and they can go and visit people they need to visit to get revenge. Now, during this month, it's all kinds of things, offerings and good luck charms outside every single door of just about every single house, apartment, shop, you name it. There are plays performed on the street, and you see small crowds around them, but not many people gather because these performances are not for normal human beings, they are for the ghosts. And if you're a performer during Ghost Month, there's one thing you'd have to do, otherwise they will not allow you in the theatre because it'll be bad luck otherwise. You will have to do a complete full performance, all the frills attached, everything, with an audience, with nobody in the audience, nobody there at all. It's just for the ghosts. The theatre will be empty.
Oh wow.
And I've told stories through Ghost Month. The Cantonese word for ghost is guilo, and I'm a guilo, a white foreign ghost. I wouldn't mind if you're red, pink, green, blue, or orange. It doesn't matter. You're still a guilo. And I was there. Now, if you're a celebrity and you want to be in the newspapers, then you have to have a ghost story to tell, but no one wants to know otherwise. You couldn't get yourself in the newspaper or on the television or anything unless you have a ghost story. So everybody in the Hong Kong chief of police has a ghost story. So this is a story, a newspaper had heard about it. It was quite famous, but they wanted to get to the root of it. There is a cinema in Hong Kong. Now, on my very first visit to Hong Kong, I was in Wan Chai. I wanted to go to Wan Chai because this is where the movie The World of Susie Wong was made, or was set. It's actually made in Central, but so I walked with my person who became my wife, second wife. I walked with her from Wan Chai to Central, and we came to the cinema. And I saw the cinema, and on the hoardings outside was The World of Susie Wong. I thought, hey, great, perfect. I want to go to see The World of Susie Wong in Hong Kong where it was made, in the same centre where it was made. She said, I don't want to go. There's nothing like it. It's cold. I don't want to go there. I'm in a hurry. I'm hungry also. So I didn't go, which is really unfortunate because that cinema is the most important cinema in Hong Kong. It shows nothing but old movies, old romantic movies. You never see anything violent in this movie. It's just all completely romantic movies. It's full to the hilt every night of the week, except two seats at the back, number 13 and number 14, which means something in Cantonese on good luck. But it's always empty. Those two seats are never sold. They said they were haunted, but the newspaper said, I want to get to the bottom of this. So they sent a seasoned reporter and a young girl assistant with him. They waited until everyone had gone into the cinema, and the woman was just about ready to pull down the shutter selling the tickets when they rushed up and said, can we have two seats for the movie? Sorry, sir, all the seats have sold. Well, what about those two seats at the back, numbers 13 and 14? Oh, we never sell them, sir. Never, never, never. We never sell them. Just at that moment, the new, brash, young boss came through the foyer and said, hey, what's going on here? We're in here for business. Sell them the seats. So they got the tickets. The young assistant girl went to the toilets. He went upstairs to the seats. While the girl was in the toilet, in the cubicle, she heard the old lady coming into the cubicle next to her. She could hear some talking, and then quite clearly she heard, "Right now, I fed you. Will you behave yourself?" She didn't know what it meant, but she went upstairs. Now, the fellow upstairs was watching the movie and watching everything else too to see what was going on. And when he looked at his assistant, she was kind of frozen, for want of a better word of describing her. She didn't move. And then he got the great shock of just seeing something move inside of her. It was like another face. And this other face spoke to him and said, "What are you doing here? This seat's not for you. I'm waiting for someone. Go, leave now. No one sits in these seats. I'm waiting for someone. These are our seats." He's panic-stricken, of course. He's ready to run for it. But as a seasoned reporter, it clicked in. And then he said, "But why? Why should I move? What's your story? Tell me your story." And so the figure told him how she and her husband, they knew each other all their lives, from children through school, all their lives. Whenever they had an argument, whenever they had a fight, they would always go to the cinema, sit in these two seats, and the moment they're in the cinema, everything was forgotten about. All the row, all the argument was completely forgotten, and everything was forgiven. They were now married. One day when her husband was at work, she went to visit her mum. When she went into her mum's house, she was quite surprised to see her husband's boss sitting on the sofa there. And she said, "What's he doing here?" And she noticed her mum had a big bundle of money, notes. Her mum was always broke from playing mahjong. She'd never had any money. She said, "Where'd you get all of that from?" Then she took her daughter by the hand, walked her into the bedroom, and the boss got out of the sofa. He walked into the bedroom, and the mum locked the door. The young woman didn't understand. She didn't know. Why? Why did her mum not hear her call out? Why did her mum not hear her screaming? Why did her mum not know she was being brutalized and beaten? Why did she not know? Why did her mum not come to her help? Why? She couldn't understand that. Later, she was seen wandering the streets. Her clothes were torn, her hair was disheveled, she was muddied, she was barefoot, she was walking the street. She didn't know what to do. She, of course, blamed herself. She said it was her fault. How could she face her husband? How could she tell him? She was so ashamed. She didn't know what to do. And at last she called him and said she wanted to break up with him. She was finished with him. She'd had enough of him. Don't ever call her again. She wouldn't answer his phone. She was too ashamed to face him and tell him. We don't know how, but somehow her husband found out. And he went to see the boss. He rolled up his sleeves as he walked into the office. But the boss had two minders, and they beat him to a pulp. They took away his identification, and they threw him in an alleyway down by the waterfront, left him for almost dead. He was found. He was rushed into a hospital in a coma. Meanwhile, his wife, out on the street, suddenly had the idea of going to the cinema. That would be it. She would tell him when they get to the cinema. Always, everything was forgiven. She could tell him there. She would have the strength to tell him. So she went to the cinema and waited for him to come. And he didn't come. She thought, oh no. No, can't believe it. He's believed me. He's believed me. He must think I really do want to break up with him. Oh no, what am I going to do now? He must think we're finished. Oh. And she thought, that's it. My life is over. It's all gone. It's all finished. And she went downstairs into the toilets and hung herself. And she's been waiting in the cinema for him ever since.
Whoa. I wasn't expecting that. Dear me. Round of applause there, Tony. Wow. That was, yes, excellent. Normally don't have those kinds of stories on this show, but there you go.
Well, it's
Mark Binder says that was cheerful.
It's on the radio program sometime back, about 1 February year, 2021 something.
Wow.
It's just
wow, that's... Yeah. So Lisa Wilcox is with us.
And Mark.
Mark's with us.
Yep. Okay.
And Kevin Cordy says he knows the Hungry Ghost Festival in Singapore.
Yes, that's the one, the Hungry Ghost Festival. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
we
a good
warned
time.
you about crying. Yeah, that was a good story. That was a really good story. Thanks.
I had 14 shows. One, not last year, the year before, I think it was, in it'd be about 3 or 4 years ago now, in Hong Kong. During Ghost Month, and the first night the theatre was empty. We could sit in the back row of the theatre, but our backs had to be turned to the stage, and we weren't allowed to comment.
Wow, that's interesting.
We could sit there until it was our turn to go up and perform. I was doing a half hour in the afternoon, half hour in the evening. The show was going on all day. There was a play during the day. That was the main item of the play.
That's fascinating. I'd love to do that. That would be to perform for the ancestors. I'm going to say the ancestors rather than the ghosts.
Oh yeah, on the very first night, I saw the handle come down of a door. The door opened, but there was nobody there.
Yeah,
I was just laughing at this point. I just thought, But as that week went on, even the first night we went to the hotel, we were took up into the room. And the girl who was with us to take the luggage up, who was a girl carrying the luggage, and I was so embarrassed about that. But she went, knock, 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 which is a ghost knock. Top, bottom, middle. So May opened the door, went and looked under the bed, saw there was some incense that had been burning under the bed, and demanded another room. She went downstairs, demanded another room very loud, said, I'm not staying in any room that's got a ghost in it. We got
Nice. That's a good one. So remember that, folks. If you see someone knocking a door like this, check under the bed for incense and then demand a different room. Maybe you'll get the suite like Tony did.
To be cut out, there was a ghost there, it was strange. But it the last time I was there in Hong Kong, so before the COVID thing, same hotel, the room we normally would stay in, and about 3 in the morning, pitch black, dark, the heavy drapes at the windows, all the city lights coming in. We're on about 30th floor or something. 30th floor is not very far up in Hong Kong, when you've got 80 floors buildings and things, so it's not very far, but within
is that right?
Dark of the room, there was another darkness.
Oh.
And it was just kind of moved and shaped, and it was standing over May's bed, like kind of leaning over the bed like this, you know. And all I could do, because I was scared to death, I just jumped up, screamed, kicked out at it, and put all the lights on. And I'm never going to go to the room again.
I bet. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I had an experience when I was when I was a kid. Well, I was in my 20s, I guess. I was living in London at the time, and no, I wasn't. I was living in Worcester at the time, and we did a money fundraiser, and we had a jam session. Insofar as like, there's a whole bunch of musicians, and we're going to play for 24 hours. And we were in the attic space of the Worcester Arts Workshop, which is last year went defunct, I think partly because of COVID, but I think they were probably struggling before COVID anyway. And they said, this will be the room that you sleep in. This is where you can perform. And the downstairs, the toilet on that floor was not working, and so we were to use the downstairs toilet. And they had locked the back doors so that people couldn't come in without us, you know, because it was these old locks, you know, they weren't Yale locks on, these are deadbolts, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like key entry only, so they locked the back stairs, so the only way to get downstairs was down this spiral staircase, which is kind of cool. But there was one incident that happened on the way down the stairs, and then there was, not long after that, me and this guy, we ran back upstairs, and we're in this room, and there was this dark shadow in the room where we were all sleeping, and it was just moving around. And this building had been, a lot of people had said that there were poltergeist activities, like chairs being stacked up and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, we thought when we first went there and people were telling us all these stories, we're like, no, they're making it up just to scare us, just to get us all hyped up for the night. And then we had our own experience, and we were like, no, this is real. This is the real deal. But yeah, it was that was bizarre. Ghosts, yeah, these otherworldly spirits. It's a fascinating subject.
The only time I've ever been scared of things, I've had, I don't know what you would call them before, but they were interesting because I knew who it was.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, I knew who it was, but let's see.
Is this in one of your books?
Yes, this is that Lanchester book.
So this is your friend that came to visit you?
Yes, how do I get that picture?
There you go, you got it right there. Hang on, let me get rid of that. Banner, boop. For Helen Ash. Wow.
We started writing the book together with the children, but she died before it got finished. And, it's a long story that I would like to tell one day, called "The Summer of Love Came Late."
Is this the 17, 18-minute story that you're talking about?
No, 12 minutes this one, but I can tell you it another day. But I've never aired it yet. I've recorded it, but I haven't aired it yet.
But have you told it publicly before?
Yes, but every time I do, I get people in tears.
Oh.
Well, you know the ending now, don't you? You know the ending. So.
Well, yes.
Yeah. So no point to that. But she came to Beijing. When we were young, we always talked about going to China, and then we got separated, going to universities, and the years went by, and then 20 years went by. I was a yoga teacher, and she came into my class, just come back to living in the area of Lanchester where that book was. And to be honest, I didn't recognize her. The second night, we'd been working for about 3/4 of an hour, and I said, okay, everybody, we've been working a lot, let's sit down and do some yoga, sitting down, rest a bit. And we all sat down, and she stood there. And the tears were falling down her face. And she said, if you don't know who I am by now, I'm going to leave. And it was just then I knew who she was. She changed from a young teenager, a young student, to a full-grown woman. She was married to a guy called Tony, who had China. He was a China fanatic too.
Oh.
The whole thing. And we got to know each other all over again. And she's, when I went to China, she said, keep a diary. She'd keep a diary. And then it would just be like me going to China with you. Now, I know she was in hospital. I visited her before I left. And October 3rd, about 3:20 in the morning, I'm lying. It was the second night in Beijing, and it was so hot. I'm a Geordie lad from the cold northeast of England. I've never had such heat before, you know. And I'm lying on top of the bed, and then trying to sleep, and somebody came into my room and shook me by the shoulder, and I kicked out and said, "I don't want to wake up. I don't want to wake up." And of course, I kicked out of the wall, almost broke my toe. I limped around for 2 days. But that's truth, you know, because if it's told Helen anything, you have to do it. I wrote a diary, put it down 3:20 in the morning, nearly broke my toes. Okay. When I came back to the UK, I thought, I wonder if she's in hospital still or is she home? If I phone her at home, her husband might answer, and he, you know, we were good friends, but we didn't it wasn't the best thing to phone her at home.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
The hospital. And the hospital said, "What's your name?" I told them. And they said, "Hold on a minute. I'll go and get the matron." The matron came. "Are you a relative?" I said, "No, just a friend." "What's your name again?" Told her. "Oh, actually, Helen told us. And you know what Helen's like. We can't do anything, you know. If she said, will you do it, we will do it." She passed away and she wanted you to know. And I asked what time? 3:20, or the equivalent time, 3:20 in the morning.
Wow.
She came to China after all to tell me. But the shock of it all is that I didn't want to wake up. What a fool.
Yeah.
She around a few times.
That's cool.
She even warned me to go to America.
She did. Well, what happened in America then? Or didn't you go after the warning?
It's a funny story. The flights from UK to America are early evening, 6 o'clock. So I'm sleeping, I wake up early in the morning, and I have a dream. Helen's there, and she's saying, "Be careful of that Robert when you go there to America. I'm telling you, did you listen to what I said? Are you listening? Repeat after I've just told you. Be careful of that Robert. Don't go with him. Don't go with that Robert." And I thought, okay. I woke up, looked at the clock. Oh, it's only about 6 in the morning. Go back to sleep. "Did you hear what I said?" She was back. "No, did you hear what I said?" And she told me. So I'm in America. I'm there for a week. I'm staying with Mark. And we did the Waterfire Festival, and we got called off after 2 sessions, if you like. We were meant to do 3 or 4 because there was a gas leak somewhere. A Waterfire Festival with a gas leak wasn't the best combination, you know. So we left, and then this couple came up to me and said, "Oh, we liked your stories, especially the ones with death in them." And Judith had just been telling me that Americans don't like stories with death in. You know, they live on Prozac and denial.
All right, careful.
They live on Prozac and denial. You can hear her say it. I was quite happy that this older couple said, you know, she liked it. Then they introduced me to her son. My son was a tall guy, 20s or something. Clean-cut, boy next door style, you know, short hair, everything, really nice about him. And he said he'd like the stories. We shook hands. He said, "Would you like to stay at the event? And, you know, and we'll take you back home to Mark's later." And I was thinking about it, and I just said, "What's your name?" He said, "Robert." So I just went back with Mark.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. In fact, Mark just put a comment up. He said, "It's just denial. It's not the Prozac, just denial."
Just denial, okay.
So, Mark, do you remember that? I mean, did you tell Mark at the time about that?
I don't know, really. We were putting the stuff in the boot of his car at the time when the couple came up to me, so he might know who they are. They knew him.
Okay.
Somebody with him, I don't know who it was, but Yeah.
Somebody called Robert.
Going back to the UK, so the event was the last night. It was a
So
good
what kind
event.
Well, that's good. What? And that's the Riverside event, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. All the rivers lit up with braziers and things, and it's really nice. There's a lot of events going on, and we had the stage for storytelling.
That's great. Mark says his memory is Swiss cheese from the denial. Or the beer, one or the other.
Mark's been to the UK to tell stories too. You know, he came to.
He does, yeah, I know. He's been a few times to the UK. In fact, there was one point I think we were thinking of maybe like meeting up over there at some point, and then I ended up not going, and he ended up coming back early or something. I don't know. It was all a bit odd. All a bit odd.
I think the last time he was here, he made it by the skin of his teeth to get through there from the COVID stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
Up, left, right, and centre. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a true statement. Yeah, that was. Oh, yes. Anyway. Yes, absolutely. So, we've been chit-chatting for about an hour, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but it's been absolutely wonderful. I hope our listeners have enjoyed it. We've Mark put another. He's a water fire. Yes, that was it. And then he says, beer, because he likes beer. We know that. And Lisa liked that, laughing out loud. Stupid COVID is right. And then he also says, my last live gig was in Tooting with Niall Morjani. I hope I didn't butcher that name.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
He came to perform in our library. It was sold out, and then he did a Jewish event, a Jewish book event in London. It was a huge event, but we ended up on a tiny stage down in the cellar somewhere, you know. What looked like way down. It took me ages to find him, really.
You said it was tiny, but it was a long way down.
It's a long way down, yeah. Lovely stuff. And then we looked for something to eat afterwards, you know, and you know, do you want to eat here? No, I don't like that stuff. And then I said, do you want to eat that? No, I don't like this. I don't know what we ended up eating. I forgot what it was now, but it's expensive stuff. And you know, those kind of things where you get expensive food with just a little mushroom on your plate or something.
Yes, with some gravy dribbled all the way across it diagonally, looking fancy. Yeah, I don't want to pay for artistic food. I just want to pay for the food.
I just want to pay for food. Yes. It was nice though.
Yeah, well, the last time that we were over there as a family, all four of us in the UK, we were in London, and Mark says, food I remember. Of course you do. Spanish tapas is what he says.
Hey, yes, that's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah. But we were walking through London. Well, I think if we were walking or driving through London, I can't remember. But we were hungry, and we're like, all right, let's just park and walk and find somewhere. And that's what we did. We parked the car and we walked down the street, and we came to this Indian restaurant. It was the only restaurant on the street. And we walked in, and we're in like jeans, you know, I'm jeans and t-shirts because we've been like sightseeing and touristing and all that kind of stuff in this place. I walk in, and everyone's in suits and ties and all that rest of the stuff. But they welcomed us in. They didn't say, no, you can't come in. And we came in, and we were telling the kids, because they were quite young at the time, we're like, you have to be on your very best behavior or we will be asked to leave. Because this is a nice restaurant. And it wasn't expensive, but the food was so good. Oh my gosh, it was good food. Good Indian food. It was like some of the best I've eaten ever. It was remarkable. And of course, I can't remember where in London it was, because we were lost, driving around in circles.
Well,
so
if
anyway.
I go into London, I would get lost now. I hate driving into London. Every time I end up in London, I end up going into Oxford Street for some reason or other, and
that's what I would do. That's totally what I do. It's like I could be pointing completely opposite direction. I'll be heading to Croydon. I'll end up on Oxford Street.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. You know, I think all roads, you know, they're saying all roads lead to Rome. They don't. They lead to Oxford Street.
Oxford Street.
Ridiculous. And trying to get down there is terrible. You don't have to worry about driving or fast traffic, because there's no fast traffic. It all just travels about 1 mile a year, you know.
Yes, it does.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. The last few times we've just used public transportation, and most of it's been the tube, like driving on the tube. So my dog is wandering around. I'm not sure what she's doing. I'm wondering if there might be a thunderstorm going on outside or something like that. So
Well, we're about 20 minutes outside London by a train, so straight into London, 5 minutes walk into Chinatown. We eat in Chinatown straight away. We make complaints about food. If you go to Chinatown, folks, if you go to Chinatown in London, there's only one place to eat, Wongays, or we call it Wonkies. Wonkies, you know, Wonky, it's spelled like that, W-N-G-K-E-I, Wonky. But Wonky, it's the most rudest, terriblest place in London to eat, but the food is fabulous. Even the Chinese say it is fabulous, and you know they're picky.
I didn't know that. Well, I guess they must be if it's,
Oh yeah, Chinese are picky about food. That's their main thing. You know, Chinese don't go out and get drunk or anything. They go out to eat. They don't go to cinemas often. They go out to eat. Everything is just eating all the time. Which reminds me of a story from Tiananmen Square. On that night in Tiananmen Square, when the soldiers came in, you know, and then they were trying to mock up pockets of people here and there and so on. They're all sitting in coffee bars and things. Chinese don't go to coffee bars, not in those days. What's a coffee bar? We go out to eat. You know? They're all sitting at McDonald's and coffee bars. What trouble? I don't know anything about it. What riots? What's going on? I haven't heard anything about it. They're all sitting there, 20 sitting at a table. Hiding underneath the table and so on. Which I have a good Tiananmen. If you look it up on my radio program, you'll see that the Tiananmen story. It's a true story as well.
Okay, all right then. So so I got a question for you. Do you tell mostly true stories or mostly folk and I'm assuming mostly folk and fairy tales?
It depends on who I'm talking to.
I guess.
To the children, I say, children, every time you hear a storyteller say, this is a true story, it's not. It's definitely true. It's not. Now, except me, this is a true story. I just burst out laughing. So that's a good start. Now I try to tell as many true stories as I can, but most of them, I would say, out of the 500 stories, 300 will be Chinese, 200 will be Hong Kong ghost stories. I guess maybe less than 100 are absolutely true that I know of, but less than 100. The rest are folk tales and fairy tales. I prefer them, and I prefer funny tales, even though everybody seems to want me to tell a ghost story.
Now, everybody loves a good ghost story, right? I mean, it's well, I shouldn't say everybody, because there are a couple of people in my household that do not like ghost stories, and they ask me not to tell the ghost stories. And my son, he likes them now, but my son, when he was younger, there was one story. It was the cow that ate the piper. Whenever I started to tell that Scottish story, he would cover up his ears, because he was my little roadie when I first started doing this. And he'd come with me everywhere, and I'd tell that story, and he'd just cover up his ears until I finished and took a bow, and then he'd take his hands away from his ears. But then when he got older, he was about 6 then. And then when he was about 10, he was listening to it, and he was like, that's such a good story. And I'm like, isn't it? He absolutely loved it. Well, Tony, thanks so much indeed for your time. I greatly appreciate it. And
I've had fun, yeah. It's been fun.
We'll see you soon.
All
right, folks.
One day, and we'll see you all.
Yeah, when are you planning on coming over? Or aren't you?
Before you end in. I'm hoping to come. It'll be next year now, but I'm hoping to come over to rent a house for a month.
Right.
Probably somewhere in the New England area. But I want to rent a place for a month, and during the week we'll be going gallivanting, and that's a good word for all. You can explain that one too.
I know, gallivanting is such a good word.
Yes, I love it. It sounds gumptious.
It does.
And then the weekends, I want to invite all the storytellers to the home, and we want to report them all into some interviews.
That would be so much fun. So you should get in touch with Sebastian, because he has a space that he rents out as Airbnb, but that might work.
Yeah, that's where we stayed last time. So it might be at Sebastian's. Okay. We don't want to burden too many people, so we just want to do a lot of holidaying, visiting all that we haven't visited already, and then maybe see some storytelling during the week, but then invite all the storytellers at the weekend to try to get 4 weekends worth of storytelling down. That
would be nice. Maybe we could figure out a way of live streaming it so that people could watch.
would be good. We do all of that now. We've got some experience of doing that now. So
Yeah.
that would be good.
Yeah. All right then, mate. Thanks everyone for being here. Next week is going to be slightly later time of 2:00, because it's my birthday almost, and my best friend from school, from school is going to be on the show with me. So you might actually get to some inside dirt. I don't know. Billy is a pretty cool guy, and he's a musician, and he does theatre work, and we've known each other since we were probably 11. And he is definitely a brother from another mother. He's my best mate, and I call it, he's part of my family. And there's a whole story about that as well. So hopefully we'll see you all next week, but it'll be at 2:00 Eastern Daylight Time, and we'll see you then. Thanks everyone. Thanks Tony. Really appreciate it.
Welcome. See you now. Bye-bye.
Bye.